Okay, so we will begin this CollegeSide chat. Thank you everyone for coming to this. I'm really excited to have you guys. We're all here to help answer any questions you guys have about UC Berkeley. So most of you guys have probably gotten the email about how this is going to go. We're going to have panelists answer around 5 main questions. And after the first part, we will unmute all of you guys, and that's when we can directly answer questions from you guys. So we're going to start this by introducing the panelists. We'll just go down the line, I guess. So I'll go first. So hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a third year at UC Berkeley studying computer science and data science. I dance a lot in the Berkeley dance community, and I miss all the food on Southside. There's a lot of great food at Berkeley. And I'll turn this over to Manu, who will be also moderating with me.
Hey everyone, thanks Rachel, and thank you all for joining. I'm Manu, I'm a senior at Berkeley. I'm sorry that as freshmen, like you don't get to go to like Cal Day and stuff like that, but if there's any remorse, I'm sitting like right next to Unit 2 right now, which is a place where many of you might live in the future. And I'm a poli-sci major, and I'm excited and happy to answer any questions. And I don't know if the moderator is allowed to do this or the panelists, but I'm happy to also leave my email in the chat. So as like freshmen, if you as incoming people and whatever, if you've got any questions, happy to answer anything later on as well.
All right, great. Mika, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Mika. I'm a third year. I'm majoring in applied math with a cluster in data science, and I'm also studying English on the side as a minor. Hopefully, I'll finish by then. Yeah, in my free time, I like to play frisbee, and I'm also running a decal on campus.
Nice. And Chris?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. I am a fourth year computer science major. I'm originally from San Francisco, and I kind of bounced around a bunch of different clubs on campus. I was in a fashion blog club named Garb for like a semester. I was in a cello group, and I was in Asian American Association. And yeah, now I'm graduating over the summer.
Great. And Marcus?
Hi everyone, I'm Marcus. I'm a third year. I'm studying political science and economics. Yeah, like Chris, I've kind of done a lot at Cal, but right now I mainly just play on the club tennis team and am involved in student government. Yeah, definitely miss the Berkeley weather, but hopefully I'll get to see it soon.
Great. Jennifer?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Gleason. I'm a first year at Cal. My major is Global Business Administration, and currently I'm in the Bay Area Environmental Consulting Network. And I don't know, one thing I love about Berkeley is like boba culture at Berkeley. It's really strong.
And lastly, thank you, Jacob.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Jacob. I am currently a third year bioengineering major. I'm also studying to get the Berkeley Certificate in Design Innovation, if anybody's interested in that. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm from SoCal, and honestly, in my free time, I kind of just like to vibe, like play video games, kind of do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I'm also very involved in GBO, which is the orientation program on campus, if anybody's interested, as well as Marcus.
Awesome. All right, so we'll jump into our first question, which probably a lot of you guys have. Why did you choose Cal? And it seems like a lot of applicants, when they apply to Cal, they also have the choice of potentially going to UCLA. And some of the questions that we got from the incoming freshmen was, how did you choose Cal? Like, what was the deciding factor in choosing UC Berkeley? And this question is for Chris, Jacob, and Manu. So Chris, if you want to start.
Yeah, so for me, it wasn't much of a decision because it just made the most sense for me. I didn't get into UCLA, and I think it was between this and some East Coast private schools that were way more expensive. I'm originally from the Bay Area, so this one was conveniently located. I was able to start the summer before freshman year, and I think just financially and location-wise, I think it just made the most sense. And I had been visiting the campus for a while because I was pretty involved in some music programs and some martial arts programs here throughout high school, so I kind of just fell in love with the vibe. I would get food here a lot, so yeah, there wasn't really a question in my mind, but I do think that if I'd gotten to UCLA, it would have been a really hard choice. It probably would have just come down to a coin toss, honestly, but I'm pretty glad that.
What about
not get because of a very similar reason, the location, except in a different way, I guess you could say, because I'm from SoCal and I was kind of just looking for a change of pace from the typical SoCal life. And so I came to Berkeley because I knew it was near San Francisco. I knew there was a large city life. I knew there was a lot of things that I could do here. And honestly, I don't regret any aspect of that. Especially over the summer, last summer, I went to the city like all the time to kind of absorb the culture and absorb the Bay Area in general. And it was just a really fantastic time. So I enjoy being up here just because of all of the aspects of culture, the change of pace from SoCal life, I guess you could say. And in terms of Berkeley being like known as being more cutthroat and intense, I actually don't necessarily agree with that, because I think that there's a lot of resources on campus and a lot of people on campus that are very willing and able to provide you with support, whether it be through professional resource networks or whether it be through friends that you make in your various classes.
Great, great. I'll turn this to Manu, who will also answer this question.
Yeah, so I mean, similarly to Chris and sort of Jacob's points, I really like it here. I'm originally actually from Boston, and so like my main thing was like, how do I get away from the East Coast? And like right now, the weather isn't that great in Berkeley. I'm in Berkeley right now, but overall, like the weather's usually better than Boston. I was also I'm like more politically focused and very interested in like political activism, things like that, and so Berkeley sort of got a history for that. And I sort of felt that it would be one of the places where you can sort of really do your own thing. I think also because it's such a big school, that can also be an advantage and a disadvantage. But in my case, I felt like it was an advantage for me because being in a big school, you can really sort of meet a lot of different people. You get to sort of enter and get to know various different interests. You can try out things that you would have never tried out. And I think my favorite thing about Berkeley, which I think sort of might be in the minority of opinions, is that a lot of people complain that it can sort of leave you alone, but I think Berkeley's like one of the closest sort of college things to like the real world. Like you really have to sort of be your own person. You really have to sort of I guess, you know, and this might be against Harley because, you know, Harley's a private East Coast person, but like Berkeley really forces you to be independent. And I think that's a good skill to have in sort of the long term. And so that's what I really like about Berkeley, is that it basically forces you to be like a real world person, and it gives you that exposure. And Rachel, should I ask the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. So sort of the next question that we have is, this is sort of similar to the thing that we just left off in, which is, what is the campus and climate like at Berkeley, and how do you feel like the culture is compared to maybe other schools that you've heard about, and what's your sort of overall thought? And I guess the first person to ask this before will be Mika.
Yeah, so I mean, Berkeley definitely has that reputation of being cutthroat and really stressful, and I'm not gonna deny that it can be stressful at times, but I'm always surprised when people say Berkeley is cutthroat, because I found it to be an extremely collaborative space. Like shout out to the Student Learning Center on campus. I've worked there tutoring linear algebra, and it's just a space where a lot of people can feel transparent about their academic struggles, and it's just like a huge source of academic support and emotional support. And office hours, speaking as a data science student as well, just huge rooms of so many different types of students, so willing to talk to one another. I've never felt nervous about saying, hey, I have no idea what to do on this assignment. So it feels very like strong in terms of like teamwork building skills. And student culture, I can't even begin to answer that really well because it's different for every single person. I'm involved on like ACLU groups and Gen Sex decal things, and that's like not at all STEM related. So you can find a real nice balance at Berkeley.
Yeah, and to just quickly add to that, I think that it forces you to really, seek help, and you might feel alone in your struggle, but that's not everyone is struggling. So I think that's useful. Marcus?
Hey, yeah, kind of to echo a little bit what Mika was saying, that it gets this reputation of being really cutthroat, but it's surprising because like Berkeley is really difficult, lives up to that reputation, and it's difficult to like get into clubs, to do well in academics. But what a lot of people don't talk about is that what that environment does is create a community where people are really supportive and welcoming. I mean, a lot of organizations are actually designed to try and help other students get through their difficulties and succeed, not necessarily like people outside of the community, really just focusing on who they can reach and helping those people that they can reach, so that we can all get better together. And it's just like such a huge school, and like having all that difficulty, like it's definitely a work hard, play hard kind of school. And then one where you get used to meeting someone new every single day. And something that that did for me was kind of help me value my relationships and just be more genuine in my feelings and actions, because what really unites everyone at Cal, kind of what Manu was talking about, is that we all know that we're all fighting a hard battle, and we all know that we're struggling. And just that fact kind of brings us all together.
Yeah. And finally, Rachel, you got thoughts on this?
Yes. So I definitely agree with everyone about how Berkeley has had this reputation of being cutthroat, stressful. A lot of people place this factor as like a big thing in their decision of whether to go to Cal. And I feel like that reputation is not necessarily like true when you're actually a student on campus. I agree with like what everyone has been saying about how, because people know that, you know, like the classes, right, they're rigorous, like Berkeley wants to teach you, be prepared for the real world, to just be good students and like know your content really well. But because of that, because everyone kind of knows that we're all really high achieving, people, I think, do more to make sure that there are resources provided. They go out of their way to check in and make sure like, hey, like if you're struggling in this class, come to office hours. I can speak mostly about the computer science department, for example. The TAs are so proactive. Even when like the quarantine, the transition to online classes and everything, the TAs were immediately like, hey, like we want to make sure you guys still get help on your projects, on your homeworks. We're doing this Twitch stream for you guys. And it's not just limited to like the academic space. For example, like in my sorority, we offer like additional like workshops, and there's like counseling. There's just like so many resources, and people are really like they focus a lot on how to make sure that you're getting the help you need and things like that. And in terms of student culture, I'd say that because like what Manu said, the school's super big, so that has its advantages and disadvantages. It's easy to get lost in it, so it's kind of up to you to be proactive about making Berkeley smaller for yourself. Find those little communities, whether that be in like a club or in your dorm on your floor. I'd say that Berkeley offers so much that I feel like is not talked about as much on the outside. All right, so I will move to the next question, which is, so a lot of you guys will have to take breath classes when you're at Berkeley, things that you don't necessarily need for your major. And you might want to know like, oh, what are like some cool classes to take? What's enjoyable? So this question is for Chris, Marcus, and Jennifer. So I want to turn this to Chris. What do you recommend for courses for breaths in the first semester for freshmen, or even just in your entire Cal career?
Yeah, so at least for me, for CS, there's 3 courses that you really need to take within CS in order to declare your major. And freshman year, I saw a few people that I knew just jumping straight into only breath requirements, and then taking their major specific stuff like later on, and then changing their mind and realizing that they didn't want to do this major or not being able to declare. And I think that finding that out as soon as possible is really helpful, just to make sure that, you know, you're not wasting your own time and you're kind of just, jumping in as soon as possible.
Yes. Sorry, I just lost my place in the script. Whoever is next, if you have.
Yeah, I can hop in. Yeah, so I actually had a really engaging conversation about this with one of my econ professors, and how we broke it up was like there are 4 buckets of how you should consider how to approach your classes, and that's 1, considering what you're interested in; 2, thinking about whether or not it's like a requirement, very simple; 3, whether or not it's like challenging and if it's going to help you grow as a student; and then 4, if it's a really good professor. And then at the end of that conversation, the really overwhelming consensus, like for me and him, it just made a lot of sense that we should be taking classes that have really engaging professors, because the content can change. The content, honestly, from one class to another doesn't change that much. We're all just trying to learn how to learn, and viewing these next few years as that opportunity, as a time to learn. Learning implies that at the end of your journey or at the end of a class, you understand something that you didn't know before. So maybe it's something that you never expected you might be taking, or maybe it's something that you didn't think would be interesting, but you have a chance to be inspired by someone, or have a chance to get a different perspective that you never would have seen before. So I think really just focusing on the professors that are notable will make for the best college career.
Yeah. And Jennifer?
Currently right now, I'm kind of doing a little bit of both, and I would actually really recommend taking both breadth classes and classes towards your major at the same time, since they kind of help balance out. Because one thing you could do is that since there's so many different classes you can take to help fulfill your breadth, it could also kind of serve as kind of like a break compared to your harder classes. So that's one thing I really like about the breadth classes. They kind of serve as like a little break in comparison to like your harder classes.
Yeah. And actually, real quickly, I know this is not on the question list, but maybe if people don't know what a breadth class is, could someone describe what a breadth class is to some of the incoming people?
Yeah. So depending on which college of the 6 that you're in Berkeley, you'll have different requirements for certain types of classes you have to take. So for example, in letters and sciences, you have to take 7 breadth classes in different subjects, art and literature, your international relations, and things like that. So depending on your college, you'll have different breadth requirements, but they're basically just, I guess, aim to give you a well-rounded education. So you're not just taking classes for your major, you're kind of learning a little bit outside of what your major is.
Yeah. So the next question is like just straight up, what do you not like about Berkeley? And I think it's important to be honest. And how can we sort of improve on those disliked aspects of Berkeley? So I guess Mika, do you want to go first about what you don't like about Berkeley?
Yeah. Okay. So we've already mentioned, Berkeley's a big school. And just to sum it up, I think there's a huge lack of intimacy on campus. We've already talked about how important it is to find your small communities, but like at the end of the day, as a freshman, it will be jarring to walk into a huge lecture, not know anyone, and your professor feels like miles away from you. I don't really know how to fix the professor situation. You just have to be an advocate for yourself in that way. You just not aggressive, but just prioritize that if that's something that bothers you. But I would speak more on like the social aspect. I feel like it's hard as a Berkeley student. You're looking around, you're seeing people do a million things, and you also then want to do a million things. And then maybe in one day you'll try and attempt to do so many random little tasks, and then you'll feel like you've achieved very little, So just kind of that comparison, like comparing yourself to others, is something that's really hard to escape in college, especially at Berkeley. And just trying to be present as much as you can as a person with your peers it feels at times impossible. But I've met a lot of people and created spaces where it's really, you can compensate for that in your day-to-day.
Jacob, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that, but something I would say I dislike most about college is the general vibe, I guess you could say, around GPA and academics, because I feel as though a lot of people place so much emphasis on their GPA that they end up not necessarily enjoying as much their experience in college. And this was definitely something that I struggled with a lot my first semester and my first year here, is I really focused so much on GPA and so much on my academics that I never really did anything like going outside, getting fresh air every once in a while from studying in my dorm, or going outside and just exploring Berkeley, trying to see what Berkeley and the Bay Area had to offer me. And so I think the way that it can improve is a general campus change and a general campus culture change. But I think also it's a personal adjustment that you have to make when you come into Berkeley, which is accepting that you're going to get B's, you're going to get C's on exams, in classes, and that's totally okay. Like, your GPA does not define you as a person, neither do your grades. And so accepting that, and then being able to kind of go out and explore and be a part of the Berkeley community, make your impact on the campus community, I think that's a much more important thing than just grades and academics alone.
Yeah, I lost my ability to get a 4.0 first semester, so it was over. It was only uphill from there.
Literally same
Oh.
here.
And I think that's definitely true. I feel like, people are so, honestly, like jobs and everything, it's not like you don't need a 4.0 to get a great job.
Yeah.
Then we finally have Chris.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I think isn't, I guess it's not really having to do with Berkeley or anything enforced by the campus, but I think that there's often this pressure to kind of stick with something the entire way. Like, I need to add a little bit more nuance to the thing I said earlier about like finding out whether or not majors for you right off the bat. I think that there's a lot of pressure to not make mistakes or to kind of change your mind throughout college, especially just given the fact that, a lot of majors are pretty hard to get into. And I think that, one thing that I really learned to do was to just, take a step outside of, what everyone else around me is doing, either in my major or in the clubs I was in, and just take time to explore. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to do that, especially like after freshman year, when everyone is pretty set in things that they're doing. It feels like other people have found their groups of friends, found their clubs, found their career paths and so on. And I think that just people aren't as encouraged to explore as much as, some of my friends in other schools. And I think that's something that is important to be mindful of and adjust for.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how quickly the 4 years wrap up. At least I can definitely say that as a senior. And people forget so much to enjoy the day-to-day that, like the B that you get in one class, like I don't even remember that class anymore. So anyway, Rachel, you got the next question?
Yes. So this kind of leads into this question. It's how stressful is coping with academics, and so what do Berkeley students like do on the weekends for fun? What does Berkeley offer in the area that entertains you? And at least I have to say, Berkeley has a lot of fun things. We have hiking trails. SF is just 30 minutes away. And this question is for Jennifer, Manu, and Mika. So Jennifer, do you want to start?
Sure. So coping with academics is definitely something you have to get used to, but I feel like if in high school you were like a good student and you took like rigorous classes and you're not too bad with time management, it won't be that difficult, especially like the transition into Berkeley at first. Like as a freshman, you might not like overload yourself with classes. Try not to take too many units, like try to keep it within like, I would say maybe 14 to 18, 16-ish units. Just not overwhelm yourself on your like very first semester. But like, if you're decent with time management and you don't start all your assignments at the last minute, which I do a lot. I did a lot last semester, but it's gotten better. But it's definitely manageable. And what is there to do for fun? There is plenty to do for fun. Especially there's also like a downtown scene too. Berkeley's got that aesthetic kind of vibe like no other college, believe me. And there's just like, there's so many things you can do, and there's so much good food and good boba. Like, what is there not to do at Berkeley, honestly, at this point?
Yes, I heard Manu. Would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, I feel like just to second all the fun things to do. I mean, I don't know if any of you like nature, but like the nature offerings in Berkeley are insane. Like literally the Grizzly Peak is like up there, and I'll like go up and drive all the time, and watching the sunset over the bay is just like amazing. There's also all types of restaurants downtown. But in terms of like academics, I would say I think, and I know it's cliche to say it, but like as a senior that's finally like going to the job market, I promise you, like if you just do what you like in terms of academics, rather than focusing on like this major is going to help me get X job, you'll honestly be so much happier at the end of it. And I would just say like the GPA point was stressed before, but it's really about just a personal shift. One of the sad things about all competitive schools is that you'll see all your friends and peers focusing on grades and everything. But if you can just sort of get out of that rat race for a couple of seconds and just reflect and think like, if I just work hard and make the right connections and I make the right friends and value my relationships, things end up fine. So I think the stress from academics really just comes from yourself and sort of watching people around you. And if you can sort of get out of that and just think about all the cool things that you've got. Like right now I'm seeing the Golden Gate Bridge. Like talk about like Berkeley being super, super cool. Out of my balcony, I'm looking at the Golden Gate Bridge right now. And I live in a really poor part of Berkeley. So like this is totally accessible to everyone. So the next question is,
Wait,
oh, did I miss anyone? Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
I lost the space in the script.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, okay, so my freshman year, I wasn't actually that stressed with academics. My sophomore year, I really struggled. I had a really eye-opening moment when I said, I just don't want to do this assignment right now. Like, I can't work at all. And then my friend said, so don't. And I don't know why. That's kind of just, it shouldn't be such a groundbreaking thought. Just don't do it if you don't want to do it in that moment. Honor that feeling. And we just took the BART to San Francisco and just had a really good day. And then the next day, I felt like rejuvenated spiritually to do a math assignment. But the thing is, if that feeling keeps coming up over and over and over, if you have the opportunity to like reassess what you're doing, what that class means to you, I would just maybe adjust if it's the major, adjust the major. If it's just a breadth, maybe don't go take a class like that again. Just like kind of be mindful about what's making you happy and what content like academic content is fulfilling you personally. So that's how I would answer that question.
Yeah, I want to add to that because in some of my classes, like I would like read the prompt of like what the assignment is, and I'm like, I have no idea like how to do this. How do I start, right? And like in that moment, you're like, oh gosh, like how do I like deal with this? But I think what's great, like at Berkeley, at any time, like on Piazza, online, you can even go in person for office hours. You go ask a TA, like I have no idea like where to start, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, like I'll give you this hint, and they get you started. So it's kind of like you're not alone in this, and having those resources really helps you just cope with academics because everyone's taking this hard class, right? People, if you have a question about something, someone else probably also has a question about something. So I think that's like one way to kind of like get through that like mindset of I'm stuck by myself, I can't ask for help. And just to add on to Berkeley, I am such a big advocate for how many like fun things are in Berkeley. When I visited other campuses, I was like, oh, like I didn't know that like you had to drive or you had to take an Uber to go to like XYZ restaurant, right? On Berkeley, it's literally surrounded by like hundreds of restaurants. So I think that's like one of the great things at Berkeley. Even if you don't go all the way to SF, you can just go downtown, go south side, go eat something fun, go drink some boba. If you're a nature person, there's so many hiking trails all around. So I think those are some of the greatest and most fun things at Berkeley. All right, Manu, you got the next question.
Yeah, so sort of to cap off the Berkeley discussion, what are some of your insecurities that you had incoming as freshmen? And I guess, how did you sort of cope with them and get over it? So Chris, you've got the first response.
Mm-hmm. I think, so I started the summer before my freshman year when I took CS61A. Sounds kind of insane, but I really just wanted to have something to do that summer. And when I showed up to the class, there were only like 400 people in the lecture, which is a lot smaller than it normally is during the school year. And because everyone in the class was pretty much like a sophomore or a junior, it was really intimidating because people had experience with CS and that kind of content, or they had at least been through Berkeley. So just the fact that I had not really done any type of related material ever was just super intimidating. And I think that just came with time and just slowly trying to reach out with people and realize that, most people are just starting these things for the first time. And while you can often hear more, like either on Piazza or, in our confessions page or meme page, people who have, you hear more from people who have a lot of experience. It feels like everyone's like that, but no, actually like the courses are designed, or at least earlier on designed such that you'll be okay without any prior experience. And I think just talking to people really relieves that stress.
Jacob?
Yeah, I think apart from like the academic insecurities, I guess you could say, I also had insecurities with just making friends with people. I feel as though being in a dorm for the first time in like a completely new environment with literally only one person who I really felt comfortable being around, which was my roommate, who was my friend from high school. I think being in that situation was very, very like stressful because I was like, am I going to make friends? Am I going to be able to participate in all the fun social events that everybody else is participating in? And I know that was very, very stressful for me. And I think something that kind of helped break that imposter syndrome was joining clubs on campus, because everybody in those clubs, like even in clubs, it might seem very difficult to like fit in, but in each club that you join or in each organization that you participate in, you're going to find a group of people that you feel very, very comfortable with being vulnerable with, or very, very comfortable with just getting to know on a deeper basis. And even though it might seem like there's so many people in this club, you will find that smaller community within each individual club, and you will find those people that will make you feel comfortable at Berkeley, feel at home at Berkeley, and feel like you have a place here. So that's one way that I kind of like fought that imposter syndrome while I was going through my freshman year.
Yeah, and just to quickly add to that, I feel like the important thing is, again, perspective. Like, everyone is going through these problems, even the freshmen that look like they have all the friends in the world and are like going to all the, like, I remember as a freshman when I used to see all the kids like going to the parties and stuff, I was like, where the hell are they getting all these invites from? And then you realize that like everyone else is also equally struggling. So it's just about perspective, and I think just putting yourself out there a little bit. Rachel?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, you know, like everyone wants to show, like publicly, you know, express when things are going well for them. No, everyone hides like what they're struggling with. So it's like hard to like remind yourself like, hey, like everyone's like showing how they're doing well, and things like that. And to speak on Jacob's point about making friends, finding your community of friends. How someone else finds their friend group is not necessarily how you will find your friend group. Some people will find their best friends like on their floors. Some people join like a sorority and all their best friends are there. Other people find it in clubs. And I think a great thing about Berkeley is because it's so big, you know, you can find all like the niches like in this giant campus. So if maybe like if you're not necessarily like, oh, interested in this big like very popular club, you might find like a very small club with like a very niche interest that interests you, and that's where you can find your place. And in terms of like academics and, you know, achievements, internships and whatnot, I remember there was a time where I was literally like, I'd be like, oh, I really don't want to do homework, and I'd be like going through like people's LinkedIn's and stuff and be like, oh man, like this person has this, when will I do that? And I think during those times it's important to tell yourself to be patient, because your time will come. If you want something and you try to go after it, that takes time to get, right? So if you compare someone else, yourself to someone else who's had a head start, like what Chris said, like, oh, they've programmed for years and years since they were like out of the womb or whatever. Then it's kind of like, oh, you gotta like, you know, take a step back, keep perspective. If this is your first time doing XYZ, first time you've been exposed to something, just remind yourself of that. And I think being proactive about keeping perspective is something that's really important to dealing with any insecurities or imposter syndrome. All right, so those are some of our main questions. And Jennifer did want to hop in and talk about her experience with study abroad. I'm sure a lot of you guys are really interested in what that's like. Like, should you study abroad in the summer, like in the spring, in the fall, whatever, what's offered? So Jennifer, can you speak about everything or the most important aspects about studying abroad?
Of course. So studying abroad was probably the most like the funnest decision I've made for college thus far. But I'm only a freshman in your second semester, so I don't really, it's only half of my journey so far. But so for my first semester, I took summer classes at Berkeley, and then for my fall semester, I traveled to London, and I spent my semester there as a part of my program. But honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way. It's just such an amazing experience to see how other people do things and how other cultures do things. And not only that, but if you're in another country, it is so cheap to go visit another country. It's amazing. And it's mind blowing. It's like, why am I paying more than like $30 for a plane ticket in the United States when I could literally go to Germany with that money? It's crazy. I would 100% totally recommend to do it. However, like if I were to make a change, I would have gone abroad over the summertime, because I feel like for fall and spring, it would be nice to be on campus so you can like rush for clubs and apply for Greek life if you want to do that, or sorry, apply for clubs or rush for Greek life. And yeah, so also one thing, I do plan on going abroad again in junior or senior year, depending on how many more credits I have to go through, but I would definitely go abroad again. And if you have any like questions about studying abroad, like feel free to message me after about it.
Yes, yeah. I have a lot of friends who study abroad, you know, especially in Europe. Like if you're studying abroad in London, you can, you know, hop on to like the other European countries. And if you do it over the summer, I had a lot of friends who, you know, fulfilled their like breaths, or like if they had a required like physics class, you know, like why take physics like, you know, at Cal when you can like do it over the summer, you know, it's like you're vacationing and taking physics at the same time. So that definitely a lot.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. I
Wait,
took
yeah.
like a theater class for in London that was like centered about London theater, and it kind of fulfilled my arts requirement for my breath requirement. So you could fulfill so many of your breaths abroad and do so many like crazy nice things. Like we got all these tickets for free, and we went to like 8 to 10 different shows, and yeah, it was just really cool.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So wow, time has definitely flown. We've got like a little bit over 15 more minutes. We're gonna unmute you guys, and you guys can directly ask us questions, and then we'll just jump in with our answers. This part is less structured than the other part. So, right, we're all unmuted now. Whoever has a question.
That's so much already.
Hello. I don't know if anybody can see me. My name is Bridget, and I'm just kind of piggybacking off of your question about study abroad. Have you guys heard how that's being affected with coronavirus?
Yes. So all the programs for the summer are currently being suspended. I was actually going to go to Shanghai, but that got canceled. And they're still undecided for the fall right now, but they'll probably be back by spring of 2021.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of you guys change majors or schools? And if so, how many times?
Ooh, I can speak about some friends who've done it. So I think I had a friend who was applied math and like letters and sciences, right? And then they switched to like bioengineering. And in terms of like switching majors, I think Berkeley actually gives you like enough time for you to be able to like complete everything. If you schedule like correctly, sometimes you might need like an extra semester. But overall, it's like, I don't think it's a hard time. And I have friends who have switched from like mechanical engineering to EECS, and all they had to do was like take like the 3 required classes to switch and like, achieve a certain GPA, and then with that requirement they can switch majors. Does anyone else have insight on switching majors in colleges?
I would add that Berkeley has a really great resource, like the website. You can see where all of the different majors intersect. Really, really late into my sophomore year, I was considering switching majors. It wasn't so much of a question of time, it was more like a question of interest in the other major. Like as an applied math major, so many of those lower divs are required in other majors. So as long as you have, I think, some key math courses down, you have a lot of flexibility within LNS to switch majors.
Just to, Rachel, I was just gonna say your thing. If you've got a question, by the way, either put in the chat so we can directly call it, or like just raise your hand so that it's more structured.
Yeah.
But Jake, yeah.
Oh yeah. Right. All I was gonna say was like, there's also the option of minoring if you have an interest as well. So minoring is a really fantastic way. I'm not currently taking a minor, but I did realize through some of the jobs I've had on campus that I'm really interested in design work, which is why I'm going for the Certificate of Design Innovation. And it's very similar to a minor in which you take extra classes to get the minor basically, or get the certificate. And so if you're interested in something, but you're not super certain about how you want to take that or like what path you want to take, there's always the option of minor as well.
Yeah, I think I saw someone raise their hand now.
I think.
Since Berkeley is such a big campus and a big school, what advice would you give for planning and registering for your classes to meet up with your majors and like graduate at your preferred year?
So, yeah, I can. So essentially, in terms of signing up for classes and making sure that you're graduating. So as Rachel said, the timeline for courses is it's very flexible. Like you have enough preparation to sort of get your major requirements in place, and you have enough time to sort of even mess up your major and like do something else if you really want to switch. At least in my experience, the counselors and TAs are very flexible with helping you go through the sign up process and get the right classes in. And just to give you a quick example, like I came in as a pre-med major and then like ended up poli-sci, totally different track, and like also was like pre-Haas somewhere in the middle. And I'm totally on fine with graduating on track. So it's really a question about your advisor, and they're very helpful.
Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I can hop in on that one. I had a friend that was like a public policy major, and then junior year realized that she had a ton of time to take more classes, and then ended up halfway through her junior year declaring and finishing the econ major. So I think the big thing to take away from that is like realize that there is a lot of time, like 4 years is a lot of time. And the second thing to take that is that your experience is going to be a lot different from everyone else's. And it's important just to figure out what will work for you. Maybe you really only have one major and that's enough. Or maybe you're one of those people that like just wants to like take every single major and have a triple major and 4 minors. But just trying to make your college experience what it is means to you, and like understanding that it's not just academics into it. There's a lot of extracurricular activities, and honestly just like making friends and building relationships. And you'll have to factor that into how you pick your classes too, because if you're taking 24 units, you might not be, you know, going to parties as much.
Yeah. Something that's really helpful is like, what I've done is like putting stuff in a spreadsheet, making sure like, okay, if I take these classes now, they're available here, like will I graduate on time, and having that like confirmed by an advisor. I think that's like a great way of making sure you're on track. I'm going to move on to the next question by Sneha, which is, I've heard that campus isn't the safest, especially South Side. What's your guys' experiences, advice of this? And if you need to grab some food later into the night, is it safe to go out?
I live on South Side, and like literally in the place where they have all the like where people say there's crime and issues like that. I would just say, so like there's two things. I think first, the experience really varies between people. Like I've heard that like a lot of my friends that aren't guys have a harder time because it's just, and it's, you have to really navigate it. I think campus has a lot of safety services like Bear Walk, or I think it's called Bear Walk, where they basically send someone with you. In my case, so one thing that I've like heard though is that like you're gonna end up usually right after college also living in cities and things like that. And I think this goes back to the earlier point, which is that Berkeley really teaches you how to live in the real world. And like you're not in like a campus enclosed by a fence, and that's like what the world is like. So I think it just teaches you to be an independent person. But I would say like there are unsafe instances in my opinion, personal experience as well. But if you travel with friends, and if you sort of, you know, are kind of street smart and like, you know, don't go into alleys at like 1 a.m., usually you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think, sorry. Yeah, I'd say, you know, like as a girl, you probably have like a few more like concerns, but I would say it's actually not as bad as you think, considering that, first of all, like Cal offers, you know, shuttles at night, like they go on like forever. We also have buses, so you at least are like in a group of people if you're traveling along South Side. And I think like if you live in like the dorms, let's say like Unit 1, that's where I lived freshman year, and I would like go out and get food and stuff like right across like the dorms, and I would say it's like relatively safe. And there are like some homeless people sometimes like sprinkled out like throughout the streets, but they don't really like bother you. If you don't like bother them, they don't bother you. So like I was like very surprised, like as a freshman I would like walk around like at night when it was dark, and like I felt like really, really safe. Of course, you know, take precautions, try to like walk with a friend. But if you're in a general like area like near Unit 1 and things like that, and like where the food is, it's not, I don't think it's like too dangerous. But you know, always like be on the lookout for anything like suspicious. But I don't think it's something to be like, you know, like too worried about.
So, since we have a lot of questions, let's just do one person per question. We'll do it quickly, if that's fine with everyone. Next question is quickly, is double majoring difficult to do and complete all the coursework in 4 years? Anyone double majored?
I can hop in. Well, I guess, I don't know. Okay, so I'm poli-sci and econ, and then I'm also doing a data science minor. And I've managed like to squeeze that in with a lot of like extracurriculars, like being involved in student government, like on the tennis team, like a pre-law fraternity, social fraternity, like a couple other things. So, like I've been able to figure out how to make it work. But kind of towards my sophomore year, I realized that the fault of that was kind of losing out a lot of my friendships and a lot of my relationships. So I think if you've gotten into Cal, you've proven yourself academically at this point. So I'm pretty sure you'll probably be able to complete the double major. It's just a matter of how much do you want that to be what your college experience is like. And that's kind of the heavier question that you're going to have to weigh in, and also considering things like mental health, social health, and like how that's going to play into your time at Cal too.
All right, next question is it easy to switch between chemistry and chemical engineering in the COC? Not sure if anyone is in the COC. Not, I can speak on it. I think check the website for your college and the major requirements for both. There's probably a section that says, oh, like to take or like to transfer to this major, like here's what the classes you have to take, and then you can plan out your schedule and be like, okay, can I like fit that in while still like doing my chemistry major in the case that I can't transfer. So I think if you look on those sites and plan it out, it should be good.
Yeah, within colleges, it's usually easy to switch majors. It's harder to switch between colleges. That's the advice that my advisor's given as well. Any tips for finding roommates and picking housing?
I kind of struggled with this going from freshman to sophomore year. I'm now moving out of that situation. I think the biggest piece of advice I would give you is just really monitoring how you feel with that group of people that you want to live with. I mean, it doesn't come as a surprise that it will significantly affect your attitude towards everything if the people that you're living with don't make you feel your best. So I think just really taking advantage of the fact that you will be living in a dorm, so you will get a sense of how the people around you are affecting your mood and your like motivation for other things. Picking housing, it's really strange. Like you actually just go on a website like Zillow and go to open houses and you feel like a strange kid pretending to be an adult. It can be a little bit of a mess, but Berkeley has so many great Facebook pages for like roommates and subletting. So I feel like it isn't as scary as it might seem.
Yeah, here's where I plug Greek life, because sorority houses, you have in-house chefs and everything. It's one of, I think, the best housing options if Greek life is for you. Also campus housing, those are really nice. Next question, has legislation affected any of you?
No.
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 Yeah, it seems okay. It's like you're learning what you're learning.
I think that's one of the myths. I think like the entire grade deflation. Hasn't really affected. Okay. Can you switch from engineering to LNS and from LNS to engineering? Any of the CS people want to speak to that?
Yes. So like my friend earlier I mentioned, she went from like, I think, applied math and LNS to bioengineering. Definitely possible. I think certain majors you're not allowed to transfer, like EECS, you can't transfer from LNS to engineering, but if you're already in the engineering college, you can transfer for EECS, from what I know. All right, next question. Did any of you guys or anyone you know apply to Haas as a freshman? I'm thinking about participating in the GEP, but was not sure about whether I can meet or complete all the prerequisite courses that Haas requires.
I can probably speak to this. I actually am a freshman in the GMP program, so I'm already in Haas, but usually apply to Haas as a sophomore, and from then on, their business program is like a 2-year program which you can complete everything. I actually wouldn't be too worried about completing all the prerequisites, since it's basically just the breath classes plus like a couple more, so it's not too bad, and you do have some freedom to choose around. And not only that, but the business classes are like definitely pretty interesting, and there's like a lot of flexibility from which you can choose from, so you can like double dip to help satisfy other major requirements if you need to.
All right. If you get in for a specific major, I don't have to officially change it if I decide to pursue another major. Okay, so basically, yeah, if you apply to college with one major, can you do something else? I can just quickly say, yeah, you can totally do it. I don't think there's like you're committed to it unless you're applying to a specific school and you got in through that school. Unless any of the other people have a different answer to that.
Yeah, I think like when you come in, you're like intended something major. You probably have to complete certain things to officially be that major. So even though you apply as applied math, you probably aren't officially yet. So not a problem.
And sorry, I just want to say one thing, since that is applied math and data science, I again would check the website, because you could easily do both, is the thing. Applied math and data science go hand in hand, especially with the prereqs. So just going in, knowing which ones you might have to get out of the way. You might have to rush more than another student, but you'll be fine.
Right. Which library is the best to study in? I feel like that's a very subjective question, but what are...
Pesky engineering library.
Just don't
Yes,
study in libraries, just study in
Jacob.
cafes.
Yeah,
That's
cafes.
also true.
Yeah, there's so much more space. All the libraries are so crowded.
Come to my balcony. You can sublease this thing. Super
Or just
comfortable.
don't study. I think that's good too.
Also, plugging if you have a sorority house, there's always free space at your own sorority house. So.
Jennifer, were you going to say something before we move on? You seem like you were about to say something. Okay.
No,
Sorry.
I disagree. Go to cafes.
Gotcha. Can you double major in 2 different colleges? I actually don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know why.
I was considering this bioengineering and potentially like CS, like in the LMS department, but it's definitely very difficult, and you'll have to take a lot of classes, especially if the majors don't overlap with each other. But it's definitely possible if you're interested. But if you're interested, I would recommend researching that ahead of time so that you can have access to all the resources that you need to be able to do that.
Oh, this next question is interesting. For those of you applying to master's or doctorate programs, do universities treat a Berkeley GPA differently due to grade deflation or rigor?
So I'm a senior. I have a lot. I didn't apply to a master's or doctorate program, but a lot of my friends did. In pre-med, they definitely consider it because I know that doing well in like bio in Berkeley is definitely harder than some other schools. But in terms of social sciences and all, honestly, like the grade rigor and a lot of that in at least my case wasn't as prevalent as like the world makes it out to be. Like Berkeley's like impossible to get good grades in. But yes, like most grad programs do consider like where you're going to school, and they definitely consider the rigor of coursework. It's like similar to like when you apply to college from high school. At least that's what my friends have told me that just applied and got into different programs. Did any of you guys step on the cursed seal?
Oh yeah,
Every day.
I've jumped on it.
I had a friend who did some naughty stuff on it in the middle of the night, but she graduated early. She's in law school now, so that's what she's telling everyone. If you don't step on it, do something, you can graduate.
Yeah, I stepped on it and lost my 4.0, so it's okay.
FYI, I didn't step on it, and I don't have a 4.0, so like.
Step on it. Actually, I think it's a memorial for veterans. Anyway, okay, next question. Do any of you have any experience with research or the Presidential Scholars Program?
Again, one of my friends is in the Presidential Scholars Program. In terms of research in general, I can speak to this from social sciences. There's a lot of research opportunities, a lot of grants in the university. It's pretty easy to do research. I'm sure the CS folks can also speak to that. Like, if you're an engineering person or whatever, like there's a lot of labs you can get into.
Yeah, they have like a formal like I think there's like an undergraduate research associate where they send out, you can apply through that, or you can actually just like directly email the professor, and they might just be like, all right, just come on, because that's like what I did for like a year, where I just like emailed Professor like Mickey Lustig, and I was like, oh, like can I like come on? I like interned at MRS startup like last summer, and they're like, okay, sure. So it's like pretty flexible how you can get research. There's definitely a lot of opportunities.
So we have 1 minute left. I can definitely stay on, and we can go through the rest of the questions. All the other panelists, you guys are free to leave, or any of the attendees, like no one's holding you here. But we can just go through, I guess, the rest of the chat. It's going to take like 10 more minutes, if you guys are fine with that.
I'm fine with that, yeah.
All right, cool. Next question is, should we use ratemyprofessors.com before taking that professor's lecture?
I would say 100%. Yeah, for me, this is math. I will say it's crazy. You will, like, someone's opinion on a subject will be completely altered by their professor. I knew this semester that one of my professors, because of Rate My Professor and because of my resource in the math department, I knew he wouldn't be that great. It's true. I would say I would really trust your peers and like the Student Learning Center, especially when taking like STEM classes. Like, do your research. I cannot stress that enough as an applied math major.
So thoughts on Blackwell versus Bowles?
Very neat question. It's very specific.
I think I can answer to that because I know a lot of people lived in Blackwell. I would definitely say, I guess it depends on like who you are. Blackwell is close to like all the food and South Side and stuff. It's like very new. It's like your modern dorm pools is like, it's like on the side of campus on a hill. It looks like a castle, and I think it's co-ed now, and they have like a haunted house that they host every year. But it's kind of like out of the way, and I'm not sure if it's like you stay with the same people for 4 years still, but because I know at one point it was like that, and it's more expensive, I think. So I think those are the two things about.
All right. The next question is, and I think Marcus also responded to this in the chat, but is anyone in the EOP program by any chance? And are there things that you can speak to about the EOP program? Is anyone in the EOP program? Otherwise, I would say just go to the EOP website. I think they might have better information than us. Anyone in it? About it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, there's a question about, so is it better to roommate with a friend or a random person?
So actually, my freshman year, I roomed with a friend from high school, and it was a group of 3 of us. So there was me, one person, and then the other person was completely random. And surprisingly enough, I actually found that I did not vibe with my friend from high school, but I really got along with my other roommate. And so I would say it just depends, but if you do want to room with another person, make sure that you know them pretty well or trust them enough to room with them before you decide to room with them.
That random roommate is now my best friend. Shout out to floor 5.
Floor 5, Putnam.
Yes.
Mika and I lived in the same dorm freshman year.
And, yeah, good times.
Good times.
Yeah, in 4 years, a lot of things changed. Like my best friend in freshman year is not my best friend anymore. So things change a lot. How bike friendly is the campus?
Not very, I'll be honest. I mean, there's like a lot of hills, and like you might not be able to trust that your like bike will be safe if you lock it up. So like you need to make sure like you get like pretty heavy duty locks and like are pretty smart. Like if you leave your bike out like after 2 a.m. you like leave it there for like a long period of time, like you shouldn't 100% expect it to be there when you get back or like be there undamaged. This is like half personal experience, half like just like general knowledge too of other like having friends had difficulty with it too. So I would say if you're gonna get a bike, get a cheap one. But it definitely does help depending on where you live.
Yeah. What's the
Just
best
get Heelys.
I got Heelys and I was like, all right, I'm gonna Heely to class every day, and then it didn't work out because anyway. What is the best work study job? Okay, I can answer that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends who work in like libraries and stuff, like Doe Library. Super chill because it's like you only have to like do or you can like do your work while like maintaining library things. So that one's pretty chill. In terms of just like jobs on campus in general, a lot of friends work at the RSF, also super chill. Just to answer calls sometime, organize some things, and you can do your homework too.
Is it really hard to get apartments at Berkeley? I guess like I've done 3 years of apartment hunting now. It's like as long as you're like responsible and you're in the right season, I think the best time to get apartments is usually like you should start looking like February if you're gonna lease for like the fall. And then I would say like apartments are kind of a little bit expensive, and like the apartments in Berkeley in general are not the most modern looking units of excellence, but that's the real world. So what are we gonna do about it?
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say also plug for Greek life because like the sorority house is really nice. Like all the beds and stuff are provided. You don't have to like move things if you're changing apartments. Also, it's a semester by semester system, at least for my house. So let's say like you graduate a semester early, you don't have to worry about like covering the lease for like the remaining part. Yes. Let me see. How reliable is Berkeley time? Very reliable.
The entire world runs on it here.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Berkeley time, so let's say like you have 2 back-to-back classes, right? One ends at 5 and you have another one starting at 5. It technically formally starts at 5:10. So all the professors like observe it and everything.
Yeah.
In case they were talking about Berkeley time, the website too.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Berkeley time, the website is very reliable,
Yes.
like for like enrollments, for like how difficult the course is. Like it does kind of takes the last semester data and just puts it in, like in terms of grade averages and enrollment history too. So like that's just exactly what it is.
Totally agree with that. Super reliable. You can avoid some real landmines with Berkeley time. Did any of you choose between private schools or public versus public schools?
Yeah, I was actually like really close to choosing USC or NYU between Berkeley, but I definitely just kind of went with Berkeley because I just kind of felt the vibe more with Berkeley, and you kind of feel that Berkeley's going to push you harder than any other school. And it's kind of really about like seeing how far you can go, like that Moana song, and like, you know, just kind of seeing like what's your best you. And I think that Berkeley definitely has that here for me compared to like USC or NYU. And like for class sizes, it's actually not that bad. Like I have like a couple classes which have huge lectures, but then the discussions have like 20 people in there. So you have like every opportunity to know your GSI, and office hours are a great way to know your professors as well if you're like concerned with whether or not you can get close to your professor or not. So like barely anyone shows up to office hours. So it's like really helpful. So yeah, I would say Berkeley does have its perks for that.
Great. Is investing in a skateboard worth it? I'd say yeah. I have a lot of friends who have, you know, booster boards, and they take it everywhere, and it's like easy on sidewalks and stuff to like use it. So it seems like they like it. I guess it depends on you.
I don't think anyone walking likes it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. I think booster boards should be banned from campus. I'm down to have a different Zoom chat to argue that, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. When you're in a crowd and like there's a kid charging at you, it's just like sometimes, yeah, whatever. Anyway, do you get your housing? Did you all get housing after your first year? Yeah, I think we all are. I mean, it's definitely like a problem. Like I wish like Berkeley had more units, and it's definitely something that like is a thing on campus. It's an issue, but I would just say as like a senior, like you'll be fine in terms of housing. You just have to be smart about it, and the campus does help. There's resources.
Yeah, start looking like I think. And the
and the university
rent the apartment. So
Marcus, go ahead. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Oh yeah, and the university is like currently in the process of building more housing too, to support students. So that will be unfortunately for Manu, it's not going to be around for him, but for all of you entering college now, it should be
y'all
in
are
effect,
super lucky now. Like
soon.
I've been seeing like new units popping up and stuff, and like when I was a freshman, that stuff was still being built, and it's so annoying. Like I used to like in Unit 3 especially, there's like a new dorm building being built, and it's just like anyway. Sorry.
No, yeah, but there's like co-ops, there's like fraternity housing too. And like even if like say you're like really nervous about this and you completely mess up, like the university offers emergency housing too, to give you like an extra 2 weeks to figure things out. So if that's something that's stressing you out, like you will have a place to stay.
Question for Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob's got a direct question. Rachel, you want to ask?
Yeah, who it was. I'll read it, I guess. For Jacob, was there enough technical engineering courses in the bioengineering major, or would you recommend doing a different engineering major and emphasizing bio?
Yeah, so bioengineering is actually, I would consider it one of the most interdisciplinary engineering majors. So through bioengineering, I've taken mechanical engineering courses, EECS courses, CS courses, even courses in like design for like the certificate. So I would say in terms of the technical courses, there is a large diversity in the amount of classes that you take, as well as the type of classes that you take. That being said, bioengineering is very different from biology, the major. For one, as a bioengineering major, for some reason, we're not required to take bio, which always seems very weird to me. But yeah, as a bioengineering major, you're not required to take bio, which is actually a prereq for the pre-med track. So depending on what you hope to do, if you're hoping to just concentrate in like devices or in cell and tissue engineering, bioengineering is like the perfect major. But if you're looking to go into more of a pre-med track, for example, sometimes it would be good to consider taking the MCB course or track maybe instead, because they have more of the prerequisites that you'll need for your classes. It's definitely possible to be a pre-med in bioengineering though.
All right, next question is, how's diversity in Greek life? It seems like, Rachel, you've been the biggest advocate for diversity in Greek life for all of us. So I guess.
Let's hear from Marcus on this as well.
Oh yeah, Marcus, you've also got some Greek life rep, I guess.
Oh yeah, you can rep the frat side. I see from Greek life sorority side. At least the story I'm in, like it's super chill. The only like hard time intensive part is like the week of recruitment before. I will say that there's certain houses on campus that are very like not diverse, like they only like recruit for like a specific look and all that. And I'd say like diversity in general, we do have like large Asian American population or just Asian population, white American population, but lesser so of Latinx people and African American people. So that's something to take note of for Berkeley at least.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like, however you look at it, Greek life is not very diverse. That's just kind of like being honest with it and like kind of owning that. And like a lot of people like have been trying to work on it and trying to like improve it, but it's just like when you put the two words together, it's definitely like a lot of conflict. And like even though like a lot of people are trying to work towards it, it's like it's just it's not something that you might like want to expect, but like just to be honest. But like there is like a lot of like Greek life. We think Greek life just like in terms of social fraternities, but there's also like a lot of pre-med fraternity, like pre-professional fraternities, as well as like just kind of community-based fraternities too. Like I'm also in a pre-law fraternity, and like in this fraternity, like one of the values is inclusivity, and they actually don't reject anyone. Like if you want to be a part of it, you're allowed to join the fraternity, which is kind of like unheard of. So yeah, there is other options in terms of Greek life. It doesn't have to be just social. There's also like professional, and there's also like career-oriented ones like that too.
Yeah. Next question. What have you heard about the architecture program from other students?
I heard very little. One of my friends is in it. For her, it's the perfect situation, just hours and hours of studio work. But yeah, I haven't interacted with many students other than that.
Yeah, to second that, I know somebody who's doing landscape architecture right now, and she says that her days mostly consist of being in the studio and doing studio work. So most of her classes are very lab-based rather than lecture-based.
Are we even supposed to say the next question? What do you all think about Stanford?
Voldemort went to Stanford.
Yeah. I have friends who say
Stanford.
Their hackathon and stuff, and they're like, what? These students?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Sam, I think the person asked the question is named Sam. We're gonna have to report you to admissions now.
Berkeley won the big game, that's all I'm saying.
Berkeley did win the big game. It's only been 10 years, but I did get to rush the field, and I laid down the Stanford tree in their home thing and took a bunch of pictures, and we did soil it a little bit. All right.
I did the same thing. It was so satisfying.
Rachel, go ahead.
So anyone change major from one in letters and science to one in engineering college? So yes, not us, I guess, or I don't know if any of you did, but my friend that I mentioned earlier switched from applied math to bioengineering, and she's bioengineering now. So definitely possible.
Last question. I was wondering if it's hard to get the classes you want.
For CS at least, what's great about the CS classes is that all of them are webcasted, so they allow like thousands of people to take it at once. So for CS, even if you're like not declared to, like there are usually like spaces for that, which I think is great, because then you never really have to worry about like, oh God, I can't take this class because there's not enough like seats. If there aren't enough TAs, sometimes they're like, oh shoot, like there's so many people who want to take this class. Let's add more TAs to accommodate you guys. So at least for CS, I think they do a great job of making sure you guys get the classes you want.
Yeah, and I would go ahead, Jacob. There you go.
I was going to say talking to the professor beforehand sometimes helps to get the class, because I know there was one class that I was really interested in getting into, and I just went up to the professor and I was like, I want to take this class. And she was like, okay. And she gave me like a personal access code. So sometimes that helps for classes that have especially small amounts of people that they can take in.
Yeah, I would just say go ahead, Chris, you got it.
I feel like the whole class registration thing, that was like the #1 warning that I was given when considering Berkeley. And I think most Berkeley students would agree with me that it's not nearly as bad as it's blown up to be, at least from my experience. I feel like even when you don't get the classes that you want when you want them, like there's enough flexibility with most people's programs that it doesn't usually make that much of a big difference in terms of like your overall like progress towards your major. But yeah, I don't think it's that much of a problem, honestly.
Yeah.
I think we're good to go. I think that's all the questions.
Cool. Thank you guys for joining us. And I think Manu said he'd be down to give his email. If you guys have any more questions, I'm super down. Just contact me. I think I sent an email to most of you guys, but I'll also plug my email down there. And if you guys want to connect on LinkedIn or anything, down to endorse you guys for anything.
Yeah. Thank you all.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
You guys.
Bye.